Alright everybody, now let's get into some class progression. I'm going to take this one again. So, let's see what's going on with class progression. So a player chooses their primary archetype at the start of the game. A player cannot change their primary archetype. So once you got it, it's yours. Players receive skill points as they level. These can be used to level up skills within their skill tree. It will not be possible to max all skills in a skill tree. I don't know how I feel about that, because I almost, I want to feel like I've completed, like I could see if you had multiple trees, right, Missy, and you didn't fill them all up, right? But I want to be able to get to the end, of said tree, maxing
But you might be able to. I just wonder if it's sort of like WoW, where in Shadowlands you're choosing your skill, you choose your person, then you choose the pathway of what skills you want. You can't have them all either.
Well, no. I mean, it seems like you'll be able to go. You'll be able to finish said tree in this.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like you will follow one pathway, but you can't have both. You have to follow.
Yeah. So it'll just be...
You have to pick and choose.
Definitely.
You do the same in WoW, so I don't think it's that bad. You choose
Yeah.
what you want to the type of gameplay you want.
Well, I guess I should explain, like, max all skills. So, I guess in that sense, yes. So, I probably wouldn't want a shield, because I'm not a tank in that class. I want to max out my damage, spill. So, as long as it's like that, then we're good. I think Guild Wars 2 kind of does it like that, but... as long as I can max out what I like, my DPS, there's 5 of 5. I put all 5 in there, but yeah, I don't need all the skills, just like you said. So we'll see how their skill trees look. Hopefully they're not tiny, but we'll definitely see. Just because
it's a sapling, not a tree.
Yep. Like I remember WoW's talent trees used to be nice. And you could practically go all the way down for retribution, and then you would have a little bit of some that you could put into protection a little bit and holy. So you could have a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and because like there was something in holy that would benefit you DPS wise. So it was cool, which is ironic because they're like, well, everyone just follows the same tree, best in slot tree or whatever, mid maxing. It's like. So they degraded it to, 7 lines with 3 options in each thing, and it's like, well, that's worse because everyone's just gonna be like, oh yeah, you pick this and this, and yeah, I think just got lazy, I think, with it, to be quite honest. But moving on here, a player may choose a secondary archetype when they reach level 25. The combination of primary and secondary archetypes is referred to as a class. Secondary archetypes may be changed, but not on the fly. So there is not going to be instant swap. I think Steven and them has talked about it and mentioned it, that you would probably have a cooldown period, and you're probably going to have to do like a quest line to change it. So especially if you have like different type of like order halls. So like if Missy's a mage, and then she has to go to the summoner order hall practically. I don't know if that's what they're going to be called, to become a warlock. She would have to do like an introduction summoner quest, But if she changed her mind and wanted to go back to mage to be an archwizard, then she would have to do an introduction into mage again or something. Who knows? So we'll definitely see how that kind of plays itself out as we go. Let's see here. The player can then augment their primary skills with effects from their secondary archetype. Each skill in the primary tree will have several augments options from the secondary tree. As an example of horizontal progression. Augments to primary skills can fundamentally change the way the ability works, adapting what the ability once did to incorporate the identity of the second archetype/class. Class progression does not relate to a player's artisan progression. So your class progression is not your crafting progression. So speaking on that real quick so the augments from what I get is, if you're a summoner, like that's what I'm going to be going as the first time around, and I have bears, because I'm the bear guy, and I choose mage, because I think if we look here, summoner, mage, I become a spellmancer. So my bears will start having like fire claws, and so they don't really affect the damage of said spell, but they just affect like, they enhance like the visuals, maybe change the way, instead of a real bear, I have a fire bear, for example. So definitely something, Steven, we need some summoner action here. You need to give us the summoner. We need to see it.
Yeah, because I want to be a warlock, so I want to see what that entails.
Yeah, I think they still need to give us bard, fighter, ranger, rogue, summoner. They've only given us mage, cleric, and tank. So, and some of the stuff. They gave us ranger. Well, they gave us the ranger like attacks, but they haven't actually fully given us like we haven't seen anything for ranger. So, like there hasn't been a class that's like really shown that. It'll probably be the next video they put up, to be honest. But yeah, rogue, summoner, bard, fighter. I think bard literally just has like a sentence on here that says bard. So
to be determined.
But on the bard though, just quickly going on here. So with 8 archetypes to combine, players may choose from 64 total combinations to create their class. So this is pretty cool. As far as I will say this, people are like, wow, 64 classes, how are they going to balance this? Well, they balance the 8 archetypes, and then, like I said, the other archetypes that you add onto there to make these classes don't affect the damage. It just affects how the ability plays itself, So if you were a fighter and you were throwing a rock for some reason, if you became a mage, looks like, you were like a magician, a bard and a mage or whatever, then your arrows would be flaming arrows, but maybe they do fire damage, who knows? Or do they just look like fire arrows? So we'll see there. But I know
I'm hoping it's a warlock because it's a summoner. I hope I can summon things.
Yeah, I think we did
do my fire damage.
Yeah, I think we did talk about warlock is it's kind of like necromancer, summoner, cleric. Is you'll actually have a good necromancer, which you'll be able to control and summon like good spirits, maybe like angels and stuff like that, while a bad necromancer would be like summoning like demons and undead and ghouls. So there will be some type of like BioWare Mass Effect, being good and being evil systems in there. And I think it comes down to like corruption and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting. So like I said, for me, I'm going to do Summoner and probably Mage, Spellmancer, just because, or actually Summoner and Ranger Beastmaster. I probably will actually be doing that one, to be quite honest, because Beastmaster, I'm going to have a crap ton of bears. I'm going to have a bear posse.
Here we go.
Going to have the bear posse, yeah.
You're going to be like stinky to be around.
Right. Well, according to our friend Demi, yeah.
Yep, smelly Brad.
So, but what about you, Missy? I know you've been playing, so you think that's what you're going to go for, is Warlock?
Probably, unless I want to do Archwizard, which is pure mage. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Except, like they say, you do give up your flexibility when you go, pure whatever class you are. But
yeah,
I think I'd probably want to be a warlock. I think a warlock would probably be more my style.
Yeah. No, it'll be cool. It'll be cool to see that. So.
I do want to summon servant.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I just like pet classes. I just think that's what's really cool. Alright, so class abilities. Primary skills, class abilities, are based on a player's archetype. Players can personalize their primary skills with augmentation from a secondary archetype. Each secondary archetype offers 4 different schools of augmentation. Each augment school affects a primary archetype skill in different ways. For example, a mage offers teleportation and elemental schools of augments. These augments will affect a fighter's primary skills differently than a cleric's. For each augmentation has a level requirement and a number of skill points required to activate it. So you're gonna have to actually like really choose and decide what you want. So if Missy wants like a crazy looking demon thing, she's gonna have to put skill points into that skill. So choosing the same primary and secondary archetype increases focus on that archetype. So you were saying Archmage. So I would think like your fireball would become like a fireball, like an extreme fireball, right? So instead of shooting like a little fireball, you would be shooting like a gigantic fireball. To me, it'd be like an upgraded fireball, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's what they're kind of gonna go with that, to be quite honest. Let's see. Augments to primary skills will fundamentally change the way the ability works, adapting what the ability once did to incorporate the identity of the second archetype. The progression system for augments is very similar to the class progression system. Changing the augmentations on your skills will require you to go to an NPC in a village node or higher. Some spell colors or general effects change based on augments, as we were saying. Like if there was a basic arrow and you became a mage, it'd probably be like a fire arrow or something. Active skills could look totally different after an augment gets applied. So instead of lightning, maybe you're shooting lava, So lots of stuff there to think about, a lot of fun stuff. And that's what's nice about an MMORPG, is the ability to change, update, and add things over time. So you just gotta hope that it's successful so we can get to that point. Alright, skill points. Players receive skill points as they level. These can be used to level up skills, increase their rank within their active, passive, or combat weapon skill trees. It will not be possible to max all skills in the skill tree, as we said before. In terms of skill progression, players can choose to go wide and get a number of different abilities, or go deep into a specific ability. Players will be able to reset and reallocate their skill points. So for me, that means like if you want to have the best fireball ever, you would put all your skill points into that fireball and move on. But if you wanted a fireball, a water ball, electric ball, and the rock ball, then you would put a skill point in each one of those to be able to activate said skill. But if you wanted the best of that said spell, then you would put all of your points into it. So I think choices and that stuff is pretty cool. That makes me excited. So if there's a bear skill, I'm gonna put all my points into bear skill. Right, Missy?
Yes. Oh yes, dude. Just command your sea of bears.
Sea of bears. All right, and now I'm gonna shut up, and Missy's gonna take gear progression.
Alrighty. So gear progression. Weapons will have their own progression paths and their own applicable types of skills. The weapon use combo system determines special effects that proc based on weapon progression. Players can spec into weapon abilities that change what combinations are available based on the type of weapon. Ancillary effects proc based on enchantment types. Gear enhancements, power stones, can be applied to add elemental or energy types of damage. A skill tree is used to grant effects, making them better or branching off into different directions. Passive skills will enable players to work towards mastery of a weapon. Weapon proficiency, based on length of use of a weapon, is not a planned feature. Question: are weapons balanced towards a proficiency system? Example, the longer I use a sword, the better my damage will be, or will it be a normal RPG stat system with no long-term scaling? And the answer from Sarah Flanagan is we will not be using a proficiency system as described, but players will have passives available in their skill tree that will increase effectiveness of certain weapons. Becoming a master of swords will be something that is possible, just not in that particular manner. So we go down to gear enhancement. Gear enhancements, power stones, runes, can be applied to weapons to add elemental or energy types of damage. Progression in various PvP systems will unlock enhancement stones, or enchantment stones, that grant temporary PvP-focused benefits to gear via a socketing system. Performance is measured over 6-month PvP seasons. Guild Wars, Arenas, and Caravan PvP. So enchanting. There are 2 types of enchantments for items, vertical and horizontal. Vertical enchantments are a power progression for a crafted item. More damage or mitigations, added effects, or bonuses. Vertical enchantments include risks. There isn't RNG in crafting, but there may be a small amount of RNG in enchanting. Over-enchanting items comes with a potential risk that the item decays or is destroyed if a safety margin is exceeded. This system is subject to testing. So I guess they haven't worked that out with the enchanting yet.
Well, I think they're like, do we want to be really bullheaded with this and be really mean, or do we want to give some flexibility?
Yeah, because we know in BDO, we do not like when our very expensive piece of equipment goes bleh, and we lose everything.
Yep.
So I will read this from Stephen. When it comes to over-enchanting things, what we're going to do is likely to have a safety. And this is something, obviously, that needs to be tested. But we're going to have a safety period of enchantment. You know, like in Lineage 2, I think you could enchant +4 or something. And so we're going to have a similar system where you can enchant safely. And then when you start to take risks, that percentage of potentially damaging your item, either through the decay system or completely disabling it through the destruction system, will be a risk that's present. So very much like BDO there with the enchanting. It's 100, 100, 100, then it goes to 70, then it goes to 23, you know, the higher you go.
Well, even the durability of the item goes down too, and then you have to build that back up to even be able to increase it again.
Yep.
So
horizontal enchantments are more situational. For example, I'd like my sword to do force damage instead of holy damage because the monsters I tend to fight are incorporeal. This doesn't make the item more powerful, but instead more applicable to different situations and less so to others. This type of enchanting assumes no risk, just time and effort. And enchanting services are sold at player stalls. So then we have pet progression. Combat pets will be levelable and will have gear available to them. Gear is not available to summoner pets. Combat pets will incorporate some of their owner's power in a way that keeps the power progression horizontal.
Cool. Sounds good to me. Did you want to do the power creep? I know there was no like basic line there, but it was like Steven talking about it.
Oh, we could do. So power creep. Power creep is a balance issue. When it comes to gear progression specifically, the idea is to create an open market that is not heavily dependent on soulbound items, and having many item sinks and gold sinks within that economy that allows for the potential degradation and loss of assets within that closed economy, and not introduce items from the market the companies put in from a pay-to-win perspective or from a pay-to-convenience perspective that undermines the economy that players have built. That is a huge mistake that companies have made in the past, and that lends to the imbalancing of what designers maybe have actually balanced well.
Cool. Yeah, so they're definitely going to be looking at balancing and all that fun stuff, so. But,
Absolutely.